911, what's your emergency?
I'm on this hunt in Alaska and my guide's just been mauled by a grizzly bear.
And the Alaska Air National Guard crews equipped with night vision goggles rescued a hunter more than 36 hours after he was mauled by a brown bear in northern Alaska's remote Brooks Range. The man was part of a guided hunting trip about 30 miles north of Anatuvik Pass. The Alaska Air National Guard launched a search and rescue plane and helicopter from Eielson Air Force Base. The plane's crew launched flares to guide the helicopter through the pass, and it was able to reach the victim before 3 Friday morning. He was taken to Fairbanks Memorial Hospital.
Steve's Outdoor Adventures is sponsored by Steiner Optics, CVA and Bergara Custom Barrels and Rifles, UDAP Bear Pepper Spray, Corbon Ammunition, Marathon Seat Covers, and Burris Optics and the family of Eliminator Laser Scopes. This episode has been brought to you in part by the new DeLorme InReach. Stay safe, stay in touch, and stay in reach.
This week we're hunting the northern Brooks Range, and our hop-off point is Anatuvik Pass, a small Eskimo village located in the gates of the Arctic National Park. To get there, we flew Alaska Airlines all the way to Fairbanks. And from there, we had a 2-hour scenic charter all the way to the village. Once we got to Anatuvik Pass, registered guide, outfitter, and pilot Phil Bird picked us up in his Super Cub and flew us to base camp, located in the heart of world-class Caribou and Grizzly country.
As soon as Steve arrived in camp, his first order of business was to check the zero on his CVA muzzleloader. And with that task completed, he turned his attention to a more pressing matter: weather.
Sure enough, snow was forecast, and snow is what we got. Well, we woke up this morning to driving snow. I mean, this has set in on us pretty good. We've gone from being stuck in camp due to low clouds and rain to we're stuck in camp because it's got low clouds and lots of snow coming down. Check the forecast. Looks like we're in for about another 24 to 48 hours of this before it breaks into sunshine, mostly sunny, warmer conditions, maybe about 35 to 45 degrees. And that's a welcome forecast at this point. I hope this breaks soon.
True to the forecast, the next day, the weather cleared with blue skies.
I really had 4 purposes for this trip to the Brooks Range. First, I needed a barren ground caribou from Alaska for my muzzleloader Super Slam. Second, I would be field testing the new CVA Acura V2 with nitride technology. This gun is made to be impervious to Alaska's harsh conditions, and I would be the first person ever to take this gun into the field. Third, I wanted to do a recon hunt with this outfitter to check out his operations, to see if they would meet my expectations and requirements for our booking agency before we send any more of our clients there for future hunts. And finally, I wanted this adventure for our TV series. The Brooks Range is spectacular video. The plan was to fly out to a spike camp later that evening with a guide and one of my clients. But rather than sit around base camp, I decided to climb on top of a hill near camp and do some glassing for caribou. We climbed up here on top of the hill above camp. We can see for miles. This is an amazing spot. But we've got 2 big grizzlies over here, sow and a cub in the river bottom up here by one of the guides and other husband and wife client team. We alerted them to their presence because they couldn't see them from the river bottom. But there's also several caribou. I'm gonna say I can probably see 20 out there, but they're all a ways out. They're just not realistic to make a play on something in these conditions. It's best to play it cool, wait and see what comes toward us. It's a matter of time before we end up with all the caribou right in this river bottom. This is the migrational path, and everything I see is coming this direction. So we're gonna hang tight, do a lot of glassing. Hopefully we can be selective, find some big bulls, just maybe a big bear. With one of his guides mauled by a grizzly bear, Phil was short-handed, and rather than stretch his guide staff thin, I volunteered to hunt unguided, which is legal for caribou.
When it was their turn to fly out to spike camp, Steve hiked off the hill and down to help load the planes.
Getting close to elk is tough, but you can beat the swirling winds with the elk bomb. You can release a short burst or fog out the whole can, depending on your situation, keeping the elk herd calm while you work in for a shot. Available in 5-ounce cow and heat and dominant bull scents. Get in close and increase your odds with the elk bomb.
When we come back from this short commercial break, Steve is off to spike camp.
Follow Steve's Outdoor Adventures on Facebook and Twitter and keep up with all the action, as well as find out about some great giveaways that we have throughout the year. What we're doing, we're packing up the Super Cubs and making the flight over to Spike Camp. We've already got the guide over there setting up the camp. Now Ian, our cameraman's gonna fly over, and then Floyd and I are gonna follow. It's gonna be awesome. Hardly wait to get over there, get out of base camp, get up in the hills, start hunting. Tomorrow morning, it's on. I was relieved to be getting out to a spike camp where I could get down to some serious hunting. It was a short 20-minute flight down a scenic river bottom that was capped off by an exciting Super Cub water landing. Now to clarify, we're in a Super Cub that's equipped with wheels, but we're landing on a short gravel bar. So to slow the plane down, Phil put the tires in the water to create drag and reduce our speed so that we could stop in a shorter distance. Talk about pucker factor.
With camp flown in and tents set up, Steve gets to know his campmates.
I'd be sharing this camp with my client Floyd Brown and his guide Bill Gordon. Now Floyd is a 75-year-old adventure hunter who's after an Arctic grizzly, but that's a story for next week's show.
With more bad weather forecast in less than a week, Steve knows he has to get down to business and hunt hard.
In the days prior to our arrival, one of the guides had been mauled by a grizzly bear, and this created some tension back at home. So after we got camp set up and settled in, I sat down, broke out the DeLorme inReach, and sent my wife a message to let her know that everything was all right. And I went to bed that night knowing that I'd be making some long hikes in the days to come.
The next morning was clear, cold, and frosty. Steve and his cameraman joined Floyd Brown and his guide Bill Gordon up on the hill behind camp to do some glassing and get the lay of the land. After a few hours of glassing and no caribou spotted, Steve decides to move and glass the other drainage.
This is what we call the confluence camp because two main rivers come together here. And after glassing the main river drainage, I wanted to climb up over the top of the hill and glass the southwest river drainage to see if we could spot any caribou.
Well, we climbed up on the hill here behind camp this morning. Bill and Floyd are about 150 yards that way. Glass in the bottom where there's a bunch of berries for a grizzly. There were some tracks in the river headed that way this morning. Ian and I came on this side of the knob to cover some more country, and we found a big caribou bull directly across from us on a hillside. And then up valley we just spotted 4 or 5 more caribou working their way in and out of some brush. Hopefully we're going to see a bull the size that we're looking for, because right here we're in a choke point and everything seems to be migrating this direction, so it's just a matter of time before we get a close-up look.
After extensive glassing and scouting, Steve now knows the area and where the caribou will be found. As the sun set on the river bottom camp, the prospects for the next day look good. When we come back from commercial break, Steve spots a huge caribou bull, and the chase is on. This segment is sponsored by Lights Out Trail Camera by Wild Game Innovations. The Sportsman's Guide, the largest supply of name brand hunting gear at closeout prices. That night the weather turned, and the hunters awoke to low clouds and bad weather.
Well, we woke up this morning and it rained and snowed all night. Weather conditions are just miserable, horrible. We came back up here on our hill to glass where we were yesterday, and sure enough, back up there in the rim, there's 2 bull caribou bedded, and one of them's real big. One on the left is what I would consider to be a tremendous animal. So we're gonna go back down, pump up the raft, cross the river. We're gonna climb that hill again. It's gonna be a workout before we're gonna get him.
After crossing the river, Steve begins his climb up the mountain to cut the distance to the caribou bulls, which are bedded over 3 miles away.
The distance wasn't that far, and the climb wasn't that bad. It's the walking on the rough tundra that wears you out. Just imagine walking on a waterbed that's filled with bowling balls. That's what it's like.
We made it to the top, and I just glassed across. One of them's laying down, one of them's feeding. I think the big one's up feeding. We're 1,200 yards from the prize. We ain't all in yet. But an hour from now, if all goes well, we'll be in position. The big bull's bedded down up here in the rocks. He got up and fed for a while, and he laid back down. We're like the wolves once we got in these rocks. We're able to move and move fast. We're 2.5 miles into this stalk. It's too late to quit now. He's right there. I just ranged him with the eliminator at 895 yards. We still got a long ways to go. They're just a little out of muzzleloader range. I wouldn't have it any other way than this. Earning it. But they're asleep, so we gotta get going. There's the prize.
Closed captioning for Steve's Outdoor Adventures is sponsored by Kershaw Knives.
Take the pledge to be a responsible gun owner. I did. Both bulls had their heads down, completely asleep. So I took advantage of this and moved to within easy muzzleloader range.
I can't believe that those caribou were so sound asleep that Steve and I were able to walk across wide open terrain and get that close. It was incredible.
Can you pressure wash the inside of your truck out? Probably not. Not unless you have Marathon seat covers.
Go to the Outdoor Channel website and enter to win a set of Marathon seat covers, a proud sponsor of Steve's Outdoor Adventures. When we come back from commercial break, the caribou wake up and realize the wolves are at their door. Wheeler Engineering Delta Series, the most comprehensive line of AR tools available. Steve's Outdoor Adventures is sponsored by Steiner Optics, CVA, Bergara Custom Barrels and Rifles, UDAP Air Pepper Spray, Kershaw Knives, Corbon Ammunition, Marathon Seat Covers, the new DeLorme InReach, and Burris Optics and the family of Eliminator Laser Scopes.
If you'd like to book your own guided big game hunting adventure, give my office a call. I will personally take your calls, answer your questions, and help you book the hunting or fishing trip of a lifetime. We had just crossed a river, climbed a small mountain, and covered just over 3 miles stalking these 2 caribou bulls. And now I was laying under 150 yards away from the prize. All I had to do was make the shot. When the bull first woke up and raised his head, he didn't even realize I was there. So I rose up a little bit to get his attention, simply because I needed him to stand up and give me a good shot. I really wasn't counting on him jumping up and running away so quickly. I needed to get on my game and fast.
Suddenly, the caribou got up and started running. At that point, I thought it was over. But never give up with a gun topped with a Burris Eliminator scope. After the shot, I ran up there to celebrate, and Steve's reaction, well, that pretty much sums up the hunt.
Brother! How far do you think that is for a shot?
I don't know, man. What was it?
Had him 154 laying down. He ran up to 187. Woo! Oh. And that's all right. That's all right.
Doing a rainbow over there for you.
Ah, the rainbow boo.
this bull's got character. He's got a big wow in his main beam. I've never seen anything like that before. Well, there isn't much I can't say right now that you didn't just see on film. When I laid down in my pack, he was 154 yards away. He got up, he had kind of busted us, took off running. He stopped at 187 yards. Man, that power belt did the job. What an amazing hunt, an amazing experience. Just another amazing adventure. This was an amazing adventure, and in my opinion, it's the best trophy caribou hunting area in all of Alaska. And while we didn't see a lot of caribou, I had purposely come late in the season, and I expected them to be scattered. In fact, if this is a hunt that you'd like to book for yourself, please contact my office. I will personally take your calls, answer your questions, and help you book the hunting or fishing trip of a lifetime. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this week's show. But please remember to join us again next week for the final episode in the Alaska Adventure Series, seen exclusively on Steve's Outdoor Adventures.
After Steve took care of the meat and trophy, he and his cameraman loaded their packs and began the descent back to the river where they crossed in the raft, and got back to camp, and back to Floyd Brown and his hunt for an Arctic grizzly. But that is a story for next week's show, as the Alaskan Adventure Series continues on Steve's Outdoor Adventures.